We are back with an extremely exciting 1v1 matchup today. I am playing against CBTV, one of the top players and a long-term legend of this game. In the ranked league, consistently top 5, almost always top 15 in all of the seasons. So this will be a great matchup with a great player, and I'm really going to have to be on my game. So we start on hole 20 in this best of 3 random 9 series. So we're going to play up to 3 games to determine a winner to this challenge. Starting on hole 19 with some tough crosswind, which is always a really tough go. Just never an easy hole, especially when you have wind going that way. And CBTV actually ends up in the water. I will get really close to the water, but I'll maintain on the fairway. And this is just a tough second shot into this green. I have to adjust way to the right. And hopefully try to roll this one out to a good spot of the green. CB will have a shot, his third shot, from a similar spot to me. I believe he's just behind me to the left, and you can see his shot go there. So that's shot number 3 for CB, and I need to try to keep this one on the green. This is a very tough green, a lot of elevation and mounds to it. My shot's just tailing left a little more than I would like, but it looks like I'll maintain the green. And I'll be in a tough spot. That's not going to be an easy putt, especially from 36 feet away. It looks like CB ends up on the green with his third shot as well. I'm going to have to adjust way to the left. This is going to be just a tough run at this. Okay, so CB does end up on the green, much closer than I did with his third shot. And this one, you really have to get the power right. There's just so much that goes into this putt, and that felt pretty good. But I'll end up just an inch short, so that's a tough start. I mean, CB is a great player, and if you can pick up a stroke on a hole like this, you definitely want to. But I'll have to tap in for par, and CB will take a bogey, so I only gain 1 stroke. And that's a really tough hole to start on. So 0, even par, to +1 is the score through 1. And we'll now move on to random hole number 2 with a 1-shot lead. We have hole 14 here, a par 5 that's an extreme dogleg right. It looks like we have that wind from left to right though, which makes this one a little more doable oftentimes. I don't know whether to go for that shortcut. There's a gap between those trees where if you can bounce it down in there, it makes the second shot pretty easy, especially with this wind. It's just tough when you have moderate wind, though. It's so precise to try to hit it, and CB does take the left approach, which I immediately adjust and decide to go for as well. You could go for that shortcut. It's not doable with 13-mile-an-hour winds. It's just risky. But sending it out that way, especially when you have wind pushing you almost straight forward with your second shot, which is kind of how the left to right wind goes on this hole, is never bad. And I think you can actually hit an iron into here, which I'm going to do. An iron with some backspin is most likely to play. You definitely need to try to get it to full power, and it's easy, at least for me, to red bar when you try to go for full power. I don't on the actual shot, which is really nice. That's actually a great shot. And oh my goodness, I will get to about an inch away from the pin and yank it back with the backspin. So a near albatross, and that one came in really hot. That actually, if it didn't fall, that might have gotten hit by the pin and just careened off to the side. So some unfortunate luck in terms of not holing that one out. That was on the perfect line. But in terms of safety for the hole, I'll take a little easy 6-foot eagle putt. Not too bad there. CB will line this one up and likely sink the eagle putt as well. He is one of the better players in this game. I believe his personal best is -28, which for those of you who don't want to do the math but want to know at home, that's a 44 on a standard par 72 course, which is what this Switch Sports Golf Standard 18 is. -28 is just an absurd score and not too far from the world record, and he will indeed hole out for eagle. So I maintain that 1-shot lead through 2 in this game 1, and we'll move on to the random hole 3. I'm feeling pretty good at this point. CB is a great player, and if you can take a lead, I mean, obviously it's going to be tough to maintain, and you really have to try to hold on to it with dear life. But having a lead is key. We move on to hole 11 here. This downwind, downhill par 3. I believe in this play locally mode, or not play locally. It's the same as the same conditions as you see in the ranked league. That's the maximum wind on this hole. So 11 miles an hour, straight downwind, which is not too hard to deal with. CB always goes for the 3-iron here. He has a great play that always puts it really close and often gives it a shot. He hits the pin on this one. CB is just dialed with the 3-iron on these holes. I take the 5-iron. The 5-iron for me is a safer play. I'm more familiar with the way that it flies and the power you have to do with certain pins and certain winds. But I'll put it to, oh my goodness, CB. So CB hits the pin and ends up about 20 feet away to the left, which is oftentimes, I mean, CB is a darts player. I know that. So I'm going to use a darts analogy that I think he'll like. This game is oftentimes like playing darts with the outer ring of the bullseye being made of like concrete or metal, where if you get the shot perfect, you hole it out. And if you get the shot just off, you end up really close. But if you get it somewhere in between just off and perfect, where it's like 1 degree away from perfect, you end up hitting the pin and bouncing 20 feet away. And it ends up in a pretty bad spot sometimes. But we do both hole out for birdie there. So I maintain just that 1-shot lead. And we'll move on to this par 5 that's way downwind. Hole 5 downwind is a whole different game than standard hole 5. I believe this is reachable in 2 here. I really just avoid that pine tree. That's the number 1 goal on that first shot, is give yourself a chance to, get it as far as you can and get it there in 2, but just avoid that pine tree at all costs. So I definitely want to adjust to the right and give it a shot. I think full power is the play. Just because, less than full power could end up short. More than full power may end up long. But if I end up short and I could have made it to the hole, I wouldn't like that as much mentally. So I give it full power, and I leave myself with a little 13-foot putt up that hill for a nice eagle on a downwind par 5. Yeah, this one's just straight up the hill, not too much to this putt. CB hits a good shot as well. Okay, I will sink my eagle. I don't think, this wasn't quite gettable all the way to that pin in 2, unless you really cut the angle, maybe a little bit more. It might be doable if you catch the angle right on that first shot, but you really have to cut it close to the tree and some rough. So we'll both end up just short of the pin on our approaches, but both take pretty straightforward eagle putts. And I'll still maintain that 1-shot lead through 4 holes. So 5 under through 4. CB is 1 behind me at -4. And we'll move on to hole 5. So we have 5 more holes to play. Or excuse me. 5 more holes to play. We have holes 8, 10, 9, and 1, as well as 13. And a 0 wind hole 8 with that back pin. This is kind of a technical play. I wouldn't say it's necessarily solved. Like, this could be a hole-in-one. This could be a par, because that's such a tough pin on a tough mound. But there is a play to put it really close that I'm going to go for. And that's about the power that I wanted. That feels pretty good. It'll end up just over that mound and trickle down. Oh. It doesn't quite make it all the way down that massive slope, which it feels like it should in this game. That is such a strong slope. But I can't be too mad about it. We have a tap-in birdie on what's usually a tougher hole. We'll have to see how CB ends up on this one. It looks like he just teed off, so we should see his shot fly down there pretty soon. There it is. And he'll end up with a very similar situation. Maybe just slightly less on the backspin, or maybe even slightly less on the distance, and he caught more of that downslope behind that little mound. But we both end up with that little tap-in putt from the top of that mound, which is Very interesting. We must have both hit almost exactly the same shot. And that 3.1 dot power on the 3-iron usually gets you really close on that back pin with 0 wind, but neither of us hole it. So we end up, once again, all square on that hole. I still have that 1-shot lead with 4 to play. 6 under through 5 feels pretty good. You know, we had that 1 eagle on hole 5 that felt a lot better, and another eagle on hole 14, another par 5. It's just that par on 19, that special hole, where I missed that putt like an inch short and it rolled back down, is haunting me a little bit here, because I know CB is right behind me, really chasing. We have this hole 10 directly upwind drive here. And this will be a very straightforward, really no adjustment shot, except you do maybe want to adjust for the back of that green. That pin in the way back middle is guarded by a bit of slope. It's a lot more slope than it feels like sometimes. This one is also very risky because there's so little green behind that pin that anything that goes long usually ends up in the back fringe, which is just scary. And oftentimes where I end up. So I aim a square to the right, and that doesn't move a whole lot. I don't think it actually would unless I hit it closer to the pin. There's a very small part of that slope that juts off to the left on that approach shot, which, as you can see from the terrain map that I just pulled up briefly there. So this is a touchy putt, but a straighter one. It's just different from the fringe all the time. The perspective is different. It feels different. But a fairly straightforward birdie putt. I feel pretty good about making that one. And CB also holes out for birdie as well. So neither of us hole out for eagle on a very straightforward upwind hole there. But a tap in birdie is never bad. We both end up in the range of birdie golf, so 7 under to 6 under through 6. And we'll move on to hole 9 with some pretty strong tailwind, roughly tailwind on this tee shot. But once you get down there, it kind of becomes crosswind. So this is always a trickier one, and it's very strong. We have 26 miles an hour. I call that a Category 2 hurricane. There's varying degrees of hurricanes for each of the red winds, starting with 24 all the way up to 33. I'm trying to make that catch on. So 26 is the second strongest red wind that you can see, and we have a shot to get there in 2. For sure. It's just a matter of the play, what club you want to use. And you do have to adjust way left, because that wind, with the hang time of this shot, because it's so far downhill, that wind has so much time to just keep on pushing and pushing and pushing this shot diagonally to the right. So I take some power off of it, because I think that wind is going to really push it pretty far forward. CB ends up in the back of the green, so he must have hit the front fairway or maybe even the green and kind of bounded up there. And I'll have a putt after hitting the bunker and ending up kind of in the back of the fringe. This is a weird spot to end up. It's tough to tell what exactly the fringe is going to do to the ball when you're this deep into it. But because we have so much crosswind and the green is kind of sloping away from my perspective, I'll definitely want to putt that. Oh, and the putt comes out kind of to the right. It juts to the right, right off that fringe. And the fringe also eats up some of the power on it. So I end up short and to the right. A bit of a wasted eagle opportunity. Not an easy putt by any means. But CB has a chance to make this now and get that stroke back. So this is an eagle putt from the top of the hill on a very difficult hole. By no means an easy putt, though. And it looks like that'll just take off to the right. It slopes back to the left, but it looks like not until it reaches the hole. So a tough read from the top of that mound. There's a lot to that putt. He'll sink it for birdie, and we are once again all square on the hole. No movement on the leaderboard. I maintain that 1-shot lead. This has been a tougher seed so far. A lot of wind. A lot of red wind. And also just a couple of technical plays. Making sure that you reach that hole 5 and 2. That play on 8. So I feel like I'm playing pretty well given the situation. There's been a lot A lot of wind to deal with, not many holes that are necessarily easy until we get to this one. Hole 1 with 0 wind. I'm not a fan of this pin though. This pin, for whatever reason, almost always gives me trouble. I don't exactly know what it is. It's just a little bit further than that front pin, which is almost automatic with the right play. But this middle left pin, I just haven't been able to figure out. You do have to adjust slightly, I know that. So I adjust about 2 ticks to the right. And I kind of want to aim to land this just short of the fringe and see if I can bounce and roll this. The fringe is something you don't necessarily want to hit on a full shot. It really catapults you. Or I should say it really trampolines you. So we will hit just short of the fringe, and we'll see if we get the roll out. And wow, we are almost dead center and just short, 0.4 feet. If that had another rotation on the ball, that would have fallen. I think CB is going for the driver play here, and he is. So that's going to roll out to a much greater degree than mine. And a lip out, a very slow lip out. So that hits the cup just on the right side and just barely ends up outside the hole. So a tap in for birdie on 2 really close calls for each of us. And still, no movement on the leaderboard. 1 under on that hole for both of us, both birdies. And I'll take a 9 under to 8 under lead into the final hole of game 1. We have hole 13 with some headwind. This downhill par 3. I know CB has a 3-iron play here, and it kind of scares me because I know he could pull off a hole-in-one. With this wind, it's always difficult. I mean, it's never a guarantee. But that 3-iron play is definitely going to put it close, and I know that I need to at least give this one a shot. I typically play this one for the birdie. I'll use the 5-iron, hit it just less than 3.5 dots of power. And with that wind, that's not quite enough. But I'll be within range for a nice birdie. So 10 or so feet to go. And I don't think CB made it. Yeah, so that's a birdie putt that'll fall in. And I now have this putt for the win in game 1. And I'll hit it. That one feels pretty good. So a victory in game 1 of this 3-game set that really came down to that first shot. CB ended up barely in the water, and I ended up barely outside the water. And that was the difference. A 1-stroke lead, or a 1-stroke victory through 9 holes. And I'll win -10 to -9 against one of the better players in this game. I'm feeling pretty good about that game. You know, it's always tough to come back from a par on the first hole mentally when you miss a putt right away. But I get a couple of eagles, had a couple of really close calls with birdies and shots that almost fell for eagle, but it was just enough. 1 shot wins it in game 1. We're back with game 2 of this 3-game series, and we once again have a very difficult hole to start on. Hole 17 with that, well, that's a category 4 hurricane. 31 miles an hour on this hole 17. What a nice start from Nintendo. An absolute joy. Hole 17 is hard in general, and we have both tailwind and crosswind. It looks like we both go for the spoon. I'm going to catch the rough. Oh, and get a lucky launch roll. So I end up, usually the launch roll hurts you on this hole, but because I hit so low in the rough, the fairway took away some of the speed, and I end up on the green with a very makeable putt. And CB ends up off to the right on the tee. So I can see that he's already missed the chip, and I have a scary putt. I kind of underpowered that one. I wanted another quarter dot of power to really hit that one, dead center with some speed. But it falls, and I will take another 1-shot lead into hole 2 right away in game 2. That feels pretty good. I do know that CB can go real low. I mean, I think he's shot a minus 15 on a random 9 before, and like I said, minus 28s through 18. So eagles are always a possibility, and I need to take every stroke that I can when I can. We have hole 12 here for hole 2 with some direct tailwind. I take a couple pixels of power off of it. I'm not exactly sure if I need to. I actually don't think this makes it all the way to the end with full power, and it wouldn't. But it's always kind of scary to think about being in the rough there. This one is also just a very interesting looking shot because it should just be dead aim. You kind of want to bounce just left of this hole, and that wind, despite being pretty much pure tailwind, has some right to left to it. So I just leave it dead aim, and I hit it just a little too far. So I took some off of the 3-iron. Ooh, and I even catch the back fringe, and that's not going to roll out all that much. So I catch the back fringe on an overpowered 3-iron. That wasn't like a overpower on the swing. That was just an overestimation. So now I have a tougher eagle putt. I mean, a makeable one, but one that's, just kind of further away than you want to be. You don't want to be 32 feet away on this hole most of the time, especially in these highly competitive matchups. And it looks like CB will sink that putt. So I now have to make this in order to maintain my lead, and I won't. I will leave it short once again. Once again, I meant to put an extra quarter dot of power on that, and it just doesn't have the power that I'm looking for. Got away with it the first time. That time, ended up short, and I missed the putt and give back that stroke. So we're all tied up again after 2 holes in this second game. I did know that these would all be close. If I played well, I would hopefully be able to keep up. And in the early going, I've been ahead for most of it. So it feels pretty good to maintain, competitiveness in these games with a great player. And I'm hoping to keep it that way. So we have hole 10, and it looks like a stretch of very straightforward holes coming up. So we have hole 10. I saw hole 1. It looks like hole 11 was on there as well, one of the more straightforward par 3s. So some of these we should probably see some eagles on from one of us, and that may start to decide this game. Hole 10 is always tough, though. My strategies on this are never quite perfect. We have this front pin this time around with a bit of headwind in the face. So I want to club up here and probably use some backspin. When you see that headwind, it oftentimes is a key or a cue that you can get some more distance on the backspin. It'll roll back a bit further. And that's what we go for here. And we'll just catch it inside the right edge and hole it out for an eagle. Oh, and CB's shot ends up right on the edge. So the perfect distance. He also went for the backspin strategy. The perfect distance, and just ends up barely outside the hole. Like, it's hanging over the edge. And he'll have to tap in for birdie. So a lot of back and forth in this early going. I take an early lead, give it right back, and then get it right back with a nice eagle on hole 10. That's a green that always gives me trouble, and it feels good to see that one fall. Rarely do I hole out on hole 10, and a lot of players do. So it feels good to see that one. We have hole 1 now, and this time we have some wind. So we're seeing a lot of duplicate holes. I mean, you will see a number of them because there are only 21 total in this game, and we play 9. But hole 1 again with a different feel to it this time with this 11-mile-an-hour wind in the face. Always makes this one tougher. And mentally, for whatever reason, when I'm playing locally or playing in my challenges or playing online like I am here, it's so easy to leave this one long for some reason. Even though I try to adjust, I tend to just undercompensate for the wind. So I want to try to land this one in the middle of the green, roughly. The wind should take some off of it, so I'm feeling like a 3.6 or so on this 7-iron in terms of power. And I've seen this 11-mile-an-hour diagonal crosswind headwind combo plenty of times. I know about what it does. And I just put a little too much power on it, like I said, and I end up in the back of the green. So Not on the fringe like I was on hole 10, but once again, just 20 feet by is such an easy thing to do on these back pins of hole 1. Fortunately, though, not too bad of a putt. You really just have to aim it on or outside the right edge, and it shouldn't have any problem. So it'll just fall just left of center. Not too much to that putt. Pretty straightforward. And I think CB ends up birdieing that one as well. So I maintain that one-shot lead that I got back on hole 10. And I'll take, once again, just one better than birdie golf. 5 under to 4 under through 4. With 5 to play, we have hole 5 coming up. So hole 5 is one that we also saw in that first round. Hole 11, 13, and a couple of other early holes in that back 9 that are pretty straightforward. So possibly some technical golf coming up here. Once again, with that pure tailwind, the play is just, at least for me, put it just left of that tree. You don't have to deal with rough over there. You don't have to deal with the trunk of that tree. You maybe lose some distance on the second shot, so CB does cut it a little closer. But with 6 miles an hour, I don't think you can reach this green in 2. And even if you do, you end up with a really long putt. You almost don't want to end up on the front part of that green, and you'd rather be a little further back. But with full power, I didn't think it would get there, and it does indeed end up well short. So we'll have a little headwind or a little tailwind chip with some diagonal action to it. I do know this is going to bounce right. I'm just not exactly sure on the power since we're kind of close to it. There's not a whole lot of uphill, and definitely less uphill than you'd usually see or usually have to deal with on this hole. So I'm thinking about pin high in terms of aim. That's never an unsafe move. Yeah, so that'll just be a little too much power. It doesn't bounce to the right as much as I thought it might. And we will have some rollout. Kind of to the back of that green. Not too bad, though. The back of this green to this pin is not too much of an issue. And it looks like CB ended up there as well. I will trickle it down that little slope, and we'll both birdie. So once again, one shot is all that separates us. We both kind of have the same slight miss there. And we'll head to hole number 6, with me maintaining that one-shot lead. We have hole 11, with some wind in the face this time. We saw hole 11 in the first round, so a lot of duplicates, probably more than usual. We do have a different pin to deal with, though. We have that left pin, rather than the center pin that we saw in the first game. So in terms of distance, it's roughly the same as the other play. I kind of want to land this one short, hopefully bounce it to the left off of that slope, and give it a chance to trickle back down the hill with some backspin. So I'll hit it about 3.2-ish dots of power. I know that CB is going for the 3-iron, as he does on a lot of these par 3s, and that works very well for him. We'll just end up on the wrong side of the pin. So ending up hugging the pin to the right and rolling back down, the slope just pushes it to the right, so you don't really have a chance to hole it from that side. But I'm always happy with a little tap-in birdie. The shot felt pretty good. Obviously, it was going to be tough to guarantee a hole-in-one or really go for the hole-in-one with 11-mile-an-hour winds, which is the maximum in this play mode for that hole. So with maximum winds, that would have been a guess. I'm happy with the tap-in birdie, and CB birdies as well to maintain that one-shot difference through 6 holes, heading into hole 7. And we have hole 13, another very similar downhill par 3. I know that CB is using the 3-iron. He is locked in with the 3-iron on these par 3s. I need to go 5-iron. Like I said in the first game, I'd like to learn the 3-iron strategy. It's just a little too risky for me because I feel like I'd send it over the green. I don't quite know what the backspin would do. So I'm just going to hit this one carefully, except I overpower it. I hit that with an extra quarter dot of power than I lined up on my backswing. So my backspin is just a little off. I'm not quite getting the power that I want. And this is a little bit of a tricky putt, kind of a double breaker. But in the end, they may kind of cancel each other out. So it's going to break left at the start, and then towards the end, it's going to dive back down to the right. pretty flat, so 2 dots of power roughly should be good to get it there. I just kind of want to hit it through the break a little bit, though, so I'm going to, yeah, just leave it dead aim. I end up getting the 2 dots of power. I would have liked more. And once again, catch the low side of the hole because I underpower the putt. So my backspin shots with approaches to the hole end up with too much power, and my putts end up with too little power, and that's the MO. And CB gets the hole-in-one to make up that stroke. I didn't see the hole-in-one on my screen at all. So the hole-in-one evens it up, a clutch hole-in-one on hole 7, facing defeat. I was holding on to that one-stroke lead with a one-game lead, and he evens it back up at -8 to -8 through 7. I've been playing pretty well. Not spectacularly. I haven't done anything too crazy other than a couple. I mean, I think I had one hole out on that hole 10 on a fairly straightforward one that CB ended up just on the lip of. So that was the difference in the game so far. And he makes it back up with a nice hole-in-one on hole 13. I want to go for the curve shot here with that front pin that's unguarded by the bunker. If I hit this right, it should have a chance to roll up maybe to the green, but if not, real close. And that feels pretty good. Oh, and we'll just catch that tree. Oh no. So you can see CB ends up way down. He has a great chip at this one. And I now have to hit almost a full shot with a 7-iron. Or full shot from the rough, so roughly 3 dots of power. Oh, and CB hits the flag on the chip and ends up on the green so it doesn't fall. Hits the flag once again. He's done that a couple of times. I have to just send a 7-iron, so it didn't have quite the wind effect that I thought it might, and I end up 16 feet away. And CB, off the flag, ends up about by me. So he trickles it down that hill for a birdie. I now have to do the same in order to keep this game all square, and I do. I'll sink that birdie, and we'll be all square heading into hole 9 of game number 2. If this ends in a tie, we do end up just playing another random 9 until one of us does better than the other. But we have one hole to play to see if one of us can take an advantage in this game too. Oh, and we have hole 20 with some tough-looking wind. This is a challenge at the end of this round. 29 miles an hour, so that's a Category 3 hurricane. I once again, try to get that going. Oh, this is just a tough-looking drive. I don't exactly know where this is going to end up, and it's going to just veer left, and I'm going to end up in the rough for sure, which is a tough spot to be on this hole. I can see CB on the fairway next to me, so I know that he has a good shot at this one. I do have kind of a line. I can't get to the pin. I know that much. I know that I can't get to this pin. But I have a line to avoid the bunker, avoid the tree, and avoid the rock, and hopefully end up on the green. And that's what I'm going for. And that's what I'll do. So I'll end up with a tougher putt, but about the best outcome I could ask for on this hole. So I'll hit the front fairway and roll up on the green. And once again, on this special hole, or on these special holes, I guess we'll count the first shot of or the first hole of the first round as the other special hole in this game. I once again have just a crazy side hill putt. Way uphill. Not quite as much uphill as we saw with that, the first hole of this match. But I have to really hit this one hard and hope. I just have to hope that it gets to the hole. And once again, I leave the putt short. I was going for 2.5 dots of power on the putt, and I end up with 2. Granted, I probably wouldn't have made it. I would probably be in the other side of the ravine, or the other side of that ridge in the green, if I hit it with the power I wanted. But you want to at least get that to the hole and give it a shot. So CB birdies, hits the fairway on the drive, hits the green on the second shot, and makes the putt a clutch birdie to come back from one down for most of the game and win game 2. Great second game to CB. Wow. So after CB clutches up in the second game, we now move on to game 3. And we start with the nicest of the opening holes we've had so far. This is by no means anything like hole 20 or hole 17 with some crazy red wind. We have hole 2 with some 9-mile-an-hour winds in the face. So a different start to this one. And you can see both of us are going for that spoon to roll it down there. This one will roll to the right a little bit. Usually about 2 squares is the 0 wind aim. I'm not too certain about it though. So I give us a little bit of extra adjustment to the left of that. And a little extra power too, since we have some wind in the face. And that looks like it's on a pretty good line. And I'll sink it for a hole-in-one on the first shot of game 3. So after a lot of near misses, granted I did make one of the approach shots for an eagle in the second game, but after a lot of near misses, I hit that one dead center and CB birdies. So for the third time in the 3 games, I have a 1-shot lead. 2 under through the first hole after that hole-in-one on what was kind of a guess. So that was a luckier shot. I mean, I knew about roughly where it needed to be, but that was a little bit of a guess. And we'll now move on to hole 2, which is hole number 3 with 0 wind. And I'll just send a straightforward drive down there. Not much to the first shot here. After ending up in a tougher situation in the last game, trying to curve shot through those trees. I mean, granted, it was a different situation. It was a different pin. We now have the front left pin that is guarded by the bunker. I'm just going to hit this one straight ahead through the gap in those trees. No messing around this time. So we'll put it as far as possible. We'll end up in the rough. We won't quite reach the bunker. And I've been feeling a lot more confident in my backspin shots. I've been getting better at them. I've been holing them out more consistently. So that's what I'm going for now on this green that has some light slope to it that makes that backspin strategy work pretty well. So I want to land this just short of pin high. It should kick to the right. I do also want to make sure I land it enough left of the pin that it's not going to bounce and hit the pin. So just left is the play, and that's going to come back and barely lip out. Oh, just put it too far behind the hole. Maybe I needed to hit that a little bit shorter or put some stronger spin on it. But either way, it goes an inch of the hole on the way there on the left side and lips out on the right side on the way back. CB has a very similar chip, and it looks like he'll go for a very similar strategy and somehow ends up with more spin, and that hurts him as well. That looked like it hit center left of the cup and perhaps hit the pin a little too hard, and it then hit the lip and bounced out. So 2 lip outs, one much more extreme than the other. 2 very close shots. But nothing comes of either of them, and we both have to tap in for birdie, and I maintain that 1-shot lead through 2 holes. We have hole 7 now, with some moderate-looking crosswind. I go for the 3-iron here. I'll hit this about 3.1 dots of power. Usually the maximum wind aim is the center of that left tree. So the trunk of that left tree is usually where I want to aim if you deal with crazy crosswind. So I aim just right of that since it's 22 miles an hour from left to right. And CB ends up just a little bit to the right of me. So I definitely want to use backspin here, and I'm going to cut it as close as I can to that left tree without getting too close, because the wind is really going to push this one. This is way downhill. Even though it might not necessarily look like it, the wind effect is definitely amplified on this hole. And this is kind of a touchy green. If you end up bouncing in the wrong spot, you can get yourself in trouble. And oh, I leave that one short. I meant to hit that about 3.8 dots of power, and I get maybe 3.6 or so. And because of that, I end up in the front fringe. This is a scary looking putt. And the perspective is different than the standard putting, so I know I have to aim a little bit more. Okay, CB ends up with kind of a similar miss, but ends up on the green. And I'll have to really be careful with this one, because if I miss this one, it can end up way by. And I'll have to, then have a tough par putt. And once again, I just leave the putt short. Just not the power that I wanted, and I think that one would have been good if I hit it the power I wanted. So that's the fourth putt in these games that I haven't quite hit right. I'll have to tap in for a par. And we'll see how CB does. So he's lining up a birdie putt for sure. And from his line, yeah, there's a little bit less slope on it, I think, although it is still a fairly slopey putt over that mound, which is always tough when it comes to judging the distance. So if he makes this, he can take the lead in this game, and that looks like it has a great line, and it will sink a great putt to CB in order to take the lead after falling back one stroke on my hole-in-one. Or excuse me, no, now we are all even. So I hadn't given that shot back yet. After that hole-in-one, I had the one-shot lead. We were even on the next hole. I forgot that we had both lipped out our eagle chances. And now I give the stroke back to CB. So now we're all even through 3. Heading into hole 20 once again with some nicer wind this time around. I'm a little bit scared of the power of this one after hitting the rough in the last game, but I don't think it's too big of a deal. I think we'll end up actually pretty safe if we hit this with full power. CB takes that shortcut to the right of the tree and the left of the rocks and makes it. So he'll have a better approach than me. I end up much further left and a bit further away in terms of distance. So I now have, I guess I don't have the tree to contend with that right back pin. I do think the right back pin on this hole is one of the tougher shots in this entire game. You definitely want to make sure you don't end up on the left side of that ridge in the middle of the green. But there's really no place to leave this where you're going to have necessarily an easy shot. I do want to try to roll this one out. It's upwind, and the green slopes up, and oh, I just hit it too far. I just overpower that one. Typically, I do try to approach this green with backspin, but so many times I have spun it too far back, and with this pin, you just end up with side hill putts when you over backspin it. So now, I overcompensate. CB hits a great birdie putt on that side hill, and I now have to make this to keep the game even. This is such a touchy putt, and not a guaranteed... Okay, it doesn't even matter. If you miss that putt, you don't even guarantee a par, because who knows where that ends up. That has so much slope to roll down. But it doesn't matter. I sink the little side hill putt, and we move on to hole number 5 of this game 3 in our best of 3 match, all square. What a game this has been. Neither of us has had more than a one-shot lead at any point. Through 2.5 games, one shot has been all that has ever separated us. And we have this hole 14 once again. We saw this one in the first round with some crosswind, but now we have tailwind. And that makes that little shortcut through the trees a whole lot easier and a whole lot more straightforward. So I will send this one barely through the correct gap. I almost hit that trunk. But no matter, I will end up in the fairway with a nice looking approach shot and an iron. I believe a 3-iron is the play here into this green. This one's so tough because you have to use a low lofted club like a 3-iron or a spoon oftentimes, but there's so much elevation change uphill that the trajectory of the shot is always so low and so hard to judge what the ball is going to do after that. It kind of always just glides or bites and rolls back depending on the spot you hit, and with that one, I hit and roll to a stop. So the backspin keeps me on the green. I overpower that one a little bit, but now I have this little side hill putt. That's just difficult. This is not an easier part of the screen. I would like to be, short or right of it, right from the approach angle. And I'll just have to hit that one. Oh, not hard enough once again. CB does indeed make the eagle, and I lip mine out. My power on my putts has been just off. I am always either on the low side of the hole or I miss the hole low. I got away with it a couple times, but twice in this game, I've given a shot back on a bad putt. So CB gets the eagle and takes a one-shot lead on the 5th hole of Game 3. So we have 4 holes to play. I have to now claw back into this one. And we have hole 8 once again. So another hole 8. Not one of my favorite holes. I know that CB does not like this one as well. There are some players that like hole 8. It's a tough one, though. On this one, with the back pin that we saw in the first game, I used the 3-iron with some backspin and a shorter shot on the power meter. For this one, I want to use the 5-iron. I'm still going to backspin it. I want to land it left of the hole and just give it a shot on the way back. Since there's no wind, I guess we've gotten fortunate that we've seen hole 8 with no wind twice now, but way too much backspin. The angle that hit the green caused it to bounce up pretty high. And when it does that and the backspin catches on the second bounce, it really yanks it back. So now I have a tougher putt from well below the hole. Looks like CB gives it a similar run, and yeah, just backspin yanks it back. We both caught just the wrong part of that little mound. Maybe the play is to land it a little bit further. You can see where the green flattens out behind the hole. But we both hit, I believe, just short, and the bounce causes our backspin to yank it back, and CB has a tougher putt than me. So he isn't on the fringe. You can end up on the fringe sometimes if you really yank it back with the backspin, but this is a tough putt from CB. And he will understandably spend plenty of time lining it up. He is such a great putter, though. I believe that he will make this one. Yeah, he'll make it. No problem. So CB hits a nice putt, a very nice putt, on one of the tougher greens in this game to maintain his lead. So the games are even, 1-1. CB is up by 1. Once again, neither of us can take more than a one-shot lead. And we head into hole 7. I have 3 holes left to try to make up that one-stroke gap. But it's going to be difficult. I am facing one of the best players, a player who doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes. And we have a couple of very straightforward holes to try to come back. 15-mile-an-hour winds is going to make it tough. Whenever you see winds, particularly moderate winds, it makes the hole-out opportunities just, much tougher to accomplish. So I take some power off of that drive in order to just make sure I stay short of that rough. I don't think it made too much of a difference. But now we'll have a fairly unavoidable crosswind into this green. It's tough to judge how far I want to move this to the right with that 7-iron, because it's going to fly fairly low. We're only hitting at 3 dots. Okay, and I overpower it again. So my backspin shots, I'm overpowering. My putts, I'm underpowering. And it's not boding well for my chances of trying to cut this lead. I really have to, hold on to that one-stroke difference as opposed to trying to make it back up. CB taps in for birdie. No issues for him on that hole. And I now have a roughly 30-foot putt, albeit a fairly straight one. This one's not too bad in terms of this green. It looks like it should move maybe just to the right, but mostly fairly straight at the start, and then dive back down to the left, and I'll make it. Now, I'm still one shot back. That did not help with me coming back in this game. That's the main thing right now. And I now have 2 holes left to try to do it. So we'll head into hole 8. CB maintains that one-shot lead. No movement on that leaderboard. And I have to try to do something special, and I'm running out of time to do it. We do have some straightforward holes. And once again, hole 11, I believe for the 3rd time in 3 games, and we still see some wind on it, and a moderate amount of wind. So 9 is the 2nd strongest wind, 9 miles an hour, that you can see on this hole in this game mode, which just makes the hole-in-one chances just a guess. You have to get lucky. And I once again overpower my backspin shot. I will get lucky, it looks like, and not catch the fringe. I will barely avoid the fringe, and I'll roll it back down to a makeable putt. But once again, that's one that I really have to try to give a shot at holing out if I'm going to come back in this game. I'll have to adjust just to the right to save this birdie putt and hope that CB doesn't hole out. With his 3-iron on these par 3s, he can really dial it in and give it a shot. The 3-iron does pierce through the wind a little bit better, so he can be more precise with it. And he just knows the backspin better than me. And I think we'll see him put this one pretty close. That looks like it's on a pretty good line, a very good line. But that might just be the wrong side of the pin. So the right side of the pin, when that slope comes back down, it just pushes the ball to the right. So if you're on the left side of the pin, it has a chance. If you're on the right side, the slope of the back of that green just takes away the chances. But he has a tap-in birdie to maintain that one-shot lead. For the second time in 2 holes, he taps in, and I have to make a tougher putt. I mean, that one wasn't the toughest putt. It was just further distance. But I'm making 20 and 30-foot putts when he's making 3-foot putts, which is not good in terms of the comeback. I now have 1 hole left to try to turn this thing around. And we have kind of what I'm looking for here. Hole 12 with no wind. If there's a time to do it, this is really it. Not the easiest pin. I mean, front right. None of these with 0 wind are necessarily difficult. There's one pin that I just kind of know the strategy for pretty well to give a shot at an albatross, and this one is not it, as our shots are almost exactly in sync. That was pretty fun. I end up about 3 inches further than CB off that drive. And this is definitely a 3-iron with some backspin. The power and adjustment are pretty much a guess for me. Since there's no wind and the screen is fairly flat, I can definitely, give it a run, put it pretty close. But in terms of the hole out, which I know that I kind of need with 0 miles an hour, I have to kind of guess. And okay, I don't red bar the full power 3-iron, which I'm always liable to do. Oh, and I think I just catch the wrong side of the pin on that bounce. So if I ended up, once again, like the last hole, if I ended up on the left side of that pin and rolled back, it may have had a chance. But that slope on the back of the green pushes the ball to the right. The slope in the front of the green bounces it to the right, maybe a bit more than I anticipated it would. And I'll have to take my eagle. And it looks like CB ended up in a pretty good spot to finish his eagle. He might have actually just lipped out on that albatross chance. But he ends up in a good spot to secure this game with this putt. And he will. A clutch putt from CB. We both eagle the last hole. And he maintains that 1-shot lead into the finish to win games 2 and 3. Once again, by 1 shot. 1 shot it was never more than a 1-shot difference between either of us. And yet, I fall back. I mean, I played a solid round. 10 under is a pretty good score. 11 under is just a better score. So great games to CB. What a matchup and what a couple of games. This was a very exciting challenge. And I hope to do more like this against, some of the best players in this game. What a matchup. And I hope you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed playing it. Thank you to CB for joining this. And we'll catch you in the next, either ranked, challenge, or whatever type of golf that we're playing. We'll see you next time.